Hello, welcome back. We are four struggling filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joined with me is James.
Hello.
Jimmy.
Hi guys.
And Noah.
Hello.
Now, before we go any further, I thought we'd just introduce you to the fact we have social media profiles now across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, with all the links down below. So if you want to see more of our content, don't forget to follow us on one of those. Before we move on, has anyone got any news or recommendations? I have one, so I'll go for it. So basically, I watched it's a TV series again. I know I'm turning into James.
Yeah.
It's one that was on Channel 4. It's called It's a Sin. And it's the one about I think it's 5 episodes, and it's about the AIDS crisis during the late 80s. And it features the main singer from Years and Years, Ollie Alexander. And yeah, it was really, really good. And I'd highly recommend it. It was so good.
Watched a Fred Zinnemann film from the 60s, A Man for All Seasons. It was about a lad, Tudor film. It's about the guy called Sir Thomas More who said no to King Henry VIII's whole sort of becoming the head of the Church of England so he could divorce, so that he could get with Anne Boleyn. Yeah, it's a really good film. Robert Shaw plays King Henry VIII. He's really good in it, but very brief. It's got Orson Welles in it. He's really, really fat in it. He plays a bishop and he's only in a couple scenes. But yeah, it's a really good film. I'd recommend it. James, you got nothing to recommend? You've always got something to recommend.
All right. I'll chuck in a recommendation as well. I watched a fun character ensemble sort of action thrillery type thing. It was called Hotel Artemis. It's got Jodie Foster in it, Charlie Day, Sterling K. Brown, bunch of other good names in it. And
I've never heard of any of those people. Sorry.
Jodie Foster.
Oh, Jodie Foster. Yeah.
Goodness,
the other two I've never heard of. I don't think.
Is it the one on Netflix? Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it is also on Netflix. So it is also on Netflix. I was almost going to choose this as my hidden gem because I watched it and I was like, hey, it's actually not that bad. But if you want another hidden gem recommendation, this is one. It's basically about a sort of futuristic-esque version of LA where there's a hospital that's set up for criminals to go in and get patched up if they get like shot or are injured, and they don't want to go to like an actual hospital because they could possibly get arrested. So yeah, it was a good film.
That's a bonus hidden gem for all you.
Yeah, it's good. Don't know how long it's going to be on Netflix, but catch it while you can.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, that all the films we're recommending today, as of today, which is the
24th of February.
As of the 24th of February, they are all on Netflix. However, if you're watching down the line, then they may not be.
Also only on British Netflix.
Now, Jimmy, what are we talking about this week?
Thank you, Emma. So today, guys, we thought we'd talk about something that everyone can access during this last stage of lockdown, hopefully. So we're going to be looking at hidden gems on Netflix.
James, you are going to go first today.
Yes, I am. So my pick for Netflix hidden gem is a film called Arctic. It's directed by Joe Penner. Came out in 2018. Stars Mads Mikkelsen. And basically it follows a pilot who's been stranded in the Arctic Circle. Just so you guys know, for any of the films going forward, there won't be any spoilers. So we're just going to keep it as a recommendation for you guys. So what I really liked about Arctic when I first watched it is it's a film which takes a very simple premise but executes it very well. And that's kind of like a type of film that I enjoy watching, when they take something that would be very pedestrian and like overdone elsewhere and make it something a bit better than it would have just been if it was made by someone a bit, just to make a standard film. But yeah, the director, Joe Penner, had a claim to fame originally. He was one of the first YouTubers when that was just starting out. So he went under the handle Mystery Guitar Man, and he basically did like a few musical based videos back in like 2000s.
Is that his debut film?
It is his debut film, yeah. He has made a short film beforehand, which I was going to watch today, but I forgot, called Turning Point. But this is his debut feature. So yeah, it's a survival film. Another film that obviously it reminded me of is like Castaway, because it's like the survival film. But it's it's done in a very different way, but it's of that ilk. And what I really like about the story is that it knows when to start and when to finish. Because sometimes you watch a film and then they like overdo the backstory, and then the events happens at the end. It's like a big thing, and it's like, oh hooray, you know, XYZ or whatever. It's good with this film because it only focuses on the main conflict without bogging itself down in a bunch of unnecessary details which it didn't really need to have. And the stuff that is there, because this is a film with very minimal dialogue, and the dialogue that is there isn't, you know, expository, nothing about it. It's very much a show and don't tell film, which I really quite liked. It's also quite a nice runtime. It's only 97 minutes, so it's not going to take up too much of your time.
Jumping off one of your points, James, you said it uses really minimal dialogue and it doesn't rely on exposition, verbal exposition. I couldn't agree more. I really like this about the film. I think not enough films these days do that, and I think it's a great example of a fantastic screenplay that so much story and backstory is told so efficiently, so economically through visuals alone, and I think it makes for a much more compelling visual experience. I mean, the film's aided by the fact it's shot in this fantastic location, but no, it's such an economical film. I'm not sure if it would have worked with many actors other than Mads Mikkelsen, and for that to be Joe Penna's first feature film debut, and to carry such a challenging film, I think is a massive achievement. I was blown away by it, honestly.
I sort of knew what to expect with this film because obviously, yeah, you read the synopsis on Netflix, you know it's going to be a survival film, but still, I just wasn't properly pulled in because there are moments where it is just a bit boring. Like there's a lot of nothingness happening, and you don't really find out a lot about Mads Mikkelsen's character other than the fact that he's just a pilot who just crash lands. And I thought maybe when he picks up the woman, there might be some sort of dialogue here that, you know, gives him a bit of life. But
for people who aren't really fond of slow movies, even though this whole film is like a nice tight 90 minutes, it does drag a little bit. It's not a perfect movie. It doesn't really help the fact that it's in one location. Even though it does move from place to place, every location looks the same.
I do see what you mean there. I suppose we don't learn a lot about the history of Mads Mikkelsen. That's very true. But I think we know enough about his character. I think the whole film is a testament to his character, just the strength of that man. But the obstacles that get thrown at him and the way he deals with them, I just thought the screenplay was so tight. But no, I think it's a really good example of a screenplay that doesn't use that many words. It's so economical. So economical.
Don't get me wrong, there are a few moments that are good. It just keeps getting worse for this guy, and you're like, you do get a bit into it, but then it's just followed by moments of just a bit, and we're back to him trying to get up a ledge.
So at the beginning, James, when you compared it to Castaway,
Mm-hmm.
I completely disagree with that. One, because Castaway is one of my favourite films, and two, I think this is nothing like Castaway because it's not as good, in my opinion.
I can agree with that too. That's fine. Castaway's a fantastic film. So
I enjoyed Arctic, but I did think that it was gappy in places, and there were bits where I agree with Noah, where you think your mind starts wandering and you're just like, oh no, I need to focus on what's going on. But then you could probably leave the room, make a cup of tea, and come back and know exactly what you've missed.
So for the Castaway comparisons, it was mainly just to compare it to another survival-esque film, where Arctic is very much a concept film of just a guy in a place and he has to survive. And it's very bare bones, but the skeleton of the film that is there, is a very good analogy, is very strong. And I just thought it was just a surprisingly competent first feature for a director, and a very good survival film in a genre which usually is just a bit one note.
James, you're an intelligent man. Do you know what the budget? Do you know what the budget was for Arctic?
Yes, off the top of my head, and totally not looking at my phone, I can tell you.
And while you say it off the top of your head, I'll just say a few words to play for time.
Oh, I've just remembered, guys. What a coincidence. $2 million.
It's a lot less than Castaway.
That is true.
you can see that reduced budget by the way the film starts in media res. In media res, of course, meaning for those who don't know, starting as late as possible in the story. It's a really good screenplay technique. Often screenwriters will start a scene as late as possible and leave as early as possible, keeps things nice and tense. Exactly as James was saying earlier, this film cuts out all the backstory that you don't need to know and starts in media res.
So yeah, to summarise, if you're looking for a good survival film to watch, you like Mads Mikkelsen, you like the snow, this is like the perfect Netflix hidden gem for you.
So that was Arctic. We're going to move on to my pick. Personally, for me, I found it quite difficult this week because I love Netflix. So I went with Level 16, which is directed by Danishka Esterhazy. I think that's how you say her name. But she is a filmmaker that is best known for horror and thriller, which is what I would place this film in that genre. This film is pretty much Canadian through and through. The director's Canadian, pretty much all the actors are Canadian, and it's filmed in Toronto. So it's like a Canadian film through and through. So Level 16, it revolves around this weird, mysterious boarding school that I think it's each year or every so often you move up a level, and then there's 16 levels in total, and we join. The main bulk of the film is on this last level, Level 16, where we interact with our main character Vivian and also Sophia. Basically, it's a boarding school that teaches girls about the virtues of being feminine because they all think they're going to be adopted, which is kind of hinted on early on that maybe this isn't what's going on. So there's this mystery that's trying to be unraveled, which Sophia is trying to get Vivian to help her unravel it, and they do unravel this mystery at the end, and it's a little bit shocking, especially to the girls. Yeah, I do think it's a good film. I think it's not a perfect film, but I do think it's good. Some of the people it has Katie Douglas in it, who plays Vivian, and it also has Sarah Canning in, who is known as Jenna Summers from the Vampire Diaries. But bringing it back to Level 16, this actually won 3 awards for Best Director, Best Actress for Katie Douglas, and Rising Star Award. And this was through a festival called Bloody. It's the place it's actually filmed in it's actually a cool fun fact. It was filmed in an old police station, but the director, she was given full permission to change the building in any way she wanted to. So that's pretty good freedom as well to change a complete building. But yeah, as I said, it was filmed in Toronto as well.
I wondered the whole time watching it, I was like, where is this? Because, half the cast speak English and half the cast speak Russian. I was like, did they film this in Russia? Like, where are they? Another fun fact. Well, it's something a lot of moviegoers probably get, but obviously we discover, and again, you can cut this if it's too spoilery, we discover at some point during the film that Vivian is called Vivian after Vivian Leigh. And then as soon as he said that, I realised that every girl is named after a famous 40s movie star. So you've got Sophia Loren, like 40s, 50s and afterwards, like classic movie stars. Sophia Loren, Hedy. Anyone know Hedy?
Hedy
Lamarr. James got it.
Something I'm interested in, this is from the offset, it's pretty obvious that they're not going to be adopted and there's something going on. But I wondered, without giving it away, at what point did you guys guess what was going on, or did you have no idea?
I had theories to what was going on. There's a scene where they get taken in front of some people, and from the way that they were interacting, it kind of made me think of Get Out a little bit. So I was thinking maybe they're going to go like kind of that route, kind of that not. I thought conceptually the film was really good. Execution-wise, wasn't for me. It felt too much like a young adult novel turned film series, because it could have been really interesting, and there were scenes in this that I was sort of on edge, like where's this going to go? And when the reveal does come, I was like, okay, but I wasn't like blown away by it that I was expecting to be. But it's definitely a hidden gem, because I feel like it will be a lot of worldwide appeal for this kind of film, because it's a very casual watch, even though it's the sort of thriller vibe. It's done in a way which is not too intense,
Can I just say quick in response to your question there, Emma? My dad guessed it about halfway through, and I told him he was stupid for guessing that. And then it got to the end, and I was like, "Who's stupid now?" Um, so no, I didn't see that coming. It's quite a shocking twist. I know.
I think that the main character Vivian is well done and well performed. However, I can see that other characters, such as the blonde lady, who I don't know her name, Miss Brixwell, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's
I
right.
think her character is rather underdeveloped, especially when it comes to the end.
That's a good reveal, though. I did like that reveal.
Yeah, but I think definitely Katie Douglas in it deserved her award for Best Actress because I did think she did really well in it.
Unlike a lot of films, they do look the right age, and it is believable. I thought the interplay between Sophia and Vivienne was really nice. I almost wish they had had more. I thought the way the film introduced their friendship, like that first scene, gives a lot of like weight to their relationship, their friendship, and is a really good basis for the characters. I almost wish they'd had more moments conversing, trying to say this without ruining the plot, about less immediate dangers almost.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to have seen some quiet moments, but that, I don't think that's the film either. The film is very much, it keeps you in the thriller mindset, doesn't it? And it keeps going. And it is tense.
It's funny that you mentioned that opening though, because I thought the opening was such a good setup. I don't think the film as a whole is good and it's good watch. I'd highly recommend it, but it's not like, amazing. But I thought that opening, especially when you finish the film, and so much is sort of explained through that first scene, I think.
Yeah, because I think what the film does really well is gradually throughout the film you get hints to the gravity of what happened there. Because God, it's really hard to talk about a film without spoilers. Because she, in that first scene, she obviously gets taken away somewhere, and as the film goes on, you get an inkling as to what would have happened there, and it really like grounds you with the character. No, it's a good structure. The premise is fantastic. Like it really does grip you. You want to know what's happening to these girls.
I have a point I want to say. It's just a little aside, a note that I thought during the entire film is probably the most least threatening guards in any film.
Yeah.
They just look like a couple dads with their sunglasses on. They do not look like a threat in the slightest. They're just sort of standing at the back in the shirt.
My last comment, because I've been talking too much, is that almost exactly halfway through this film did something that I absolutely hated, which was, and I can say this without spoiling it, I think, about halfway through the film, we get a shift in perspective for a scene, which takes us to the other side, not like outside of the level, but we see it from the people running this place as opposed to the girls. And it was as though the screenwriter or director had sat down with a producer, and the producer said, I don't think you explain enough throughout this film. We need exactly 5 minutes, exactly halfway in the film, where you explain 60% of the film's plot. And for me, it was like somebody had taken a sledgehammer halfway through delicate surgery.
Yeah, I think as you were saying that, I know exactly the moment you mean, because the cut doesn't fit as well. It feels really, really weird. And it's funny because what is even said in that scene is exactly what's been inferred. Like, it's almost like they think the audience isn't smart enough to understand that this building's falling apart.
I feel like it also kind of takes away from the sort of using isolated a lot today. It takes away from the isolated vibe of the film a bit, because as soon as you go past that door and then you see the people running it, and there's like a window and then it's just like normal decor, and it's just sort of like, okay, so it's just a place. So it kind of loses a bit of the mystery, and it like takes away from the tension, because it's just sort of like, well, if they just go out there, then they're out of the facility, and then that's it.
But yeah, that was level 16. I think it's definitely got its plot failures, but I think overall good film, well acted, with a good mystery. See if you can guess the mystery as they go, and just pay attention, and I think makes the film a bit more fun as well.
Moving on. So I've picked the 2019 film Monos. Now this is a film directed by someone called Alejandro Landes. I think I've pronounced that right. So it's filmed all in Colombia, I believe.
Yeah.
So what's this film about? It's a war film, and we are thrown in sort of in the midst of with a war. We have no clue what it's about. We don't know who's fighting between who. We just don't know. All we know is that we are introduced to this group of adolescents who probably age range maybe 12 to 20 in that sort of region. They're in charge of looking after a prisoner of war known as the Doctora. She's an American, we know that. This is a film that throws us right in with this group of kids who have all these sort of nicknames like Rambo, Lady, Dog. We do meet this other character called the Messenger, who is a very little man who trains them. He's a very, very hench little man, and he is actually an ex-soldier as well. But it's why I like this. It's just like a descent into hell really sort of situation with all these sort of young characters that sort of clash, and some of them are in love. They all have interesting relations with one another, and that's just the beauty of young people. And I think that the sort of idea of growing up is sort of implemented in this film quite well, because growing up is quite a chaotic time, much similarly to the chaos of war, and it just combines well to create this quite mad, crazy sort of war film. Some of the main inspirations are books that I haven't read, but everyone keeps mentioning sort of Lord of the Flies. Is anyone familiar with that?
Yeah.
And Heart of Darkness. They're sort of books that are commonly sort of compared or inspired by this film. I like to say that some of the cinematography is really amazing, especially in the sort of up in the mountains. There's one shot where you see all the clouds and the messenger runs off on his horse into the distance. It looks beautiful. You've also got an outstanding Mika Levy soundtrack. She did the Under the Skin soundtrack, which I love. She also did Jackie, which got her an Oscar nomination. And this one's really good. She's got this weird sort of animal sort of sound going. And it's really interesting score that sort of adds to sort of like the dread and the build up of sort of what's going on, Irie in this. And it's got quite a sort of dreamlike, sort of trippy feel to it as well. It's just quite mad, and it's quite just sort of kind of like Apocalypse Now in some ways, into that sort of like jungle descent, like the madness sort of thing. And they've got a cow that they kill, much similarly to Apocalypse Now.
Overall, I did enjoy the film. However, I think you have to get through the first 20 minutes of absolute chaos. I think the chaos kind of adds to it, but I personally didn't like it. But then after that 20 minutes, when the plot sort of sinks in and things start making a bit more sense, I did enjoy it. And I loved the fact you said about how growing up can be chaotic. I think I didn't even think of that, and you're so right. It's such a perfect connection. And also the cruelness of kids as well. Nobody really talks about how cruel kids can be sometimes, and I think this film nicely states it.
Yeah, because I was just going to add to your point there that, like, get a group of kids together, they're going to do some rebellious or mad stuff, and like, think of a film that's set in a school. What do? They just muck about, act silly in some of these films, and then this one's just transferred it to the sort of concept of a war, put them in the middle of a war.
It's unusual cinematography. I think at the time of the first montage, I wasn't sure about the cinematography there, like this really close up and personal. I actually thought it was shot like a Western, a lot of it. I think this massive juxtaposition between these sweeping, massive landscapes and then these really up close and personal shots. And it almost threw me off, to be honest. One of my notes just says WTF.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to join in the conversation about Monos, but the film wasn't really for me, unfortunately. There's a lot of artistic vision behind a lot of the decisions made in the films, which I really appreciate. And I think out of all the films that we watched, it's definitely the one with the most to say and with the most purpose behind it, which I quite liked. However, doesn't necessarily mean it clicked for me. There were obviously moments that worked. There were moments that I was just bored and uninterested. And that isn't a slate against like any of the filmmaking or acting, because a lot of it is like stellar. Even for a film that isn't massive, it's still very self-contained and it's done very well. It's just not my kind of film, unfortunately, and that is kind of the crux of the whole hidden gems. Sometimes you see something, you're expecting it to be like, oh, this might be for me, and you watch it and it isn't. So it is what it is, unfortunately.
I completely agree with you as well, James. I actually think, I wouldn't say I like this film. It's not for me. I do really respect the fact that it's evidently well made. Like, the cinematography is undeniably good. I think the performances are powerful. This might be right for you and you might connect with it, or it might not. But well, hey, that's films.
And Mark Kermode's mentioned in his review Cannibal Holocaust, which I thought was quite an interesting film to mention.
In his review of Monarch?
Yeah.
Ah.
I'm not sure. I guess maybe because of the sort of jungle aspect. But moving on, we'll move on to Sputnik, which is a Soviet-Russian film. Well, no, it's just a Russian film set in Soviet era. Jimmy's going to talk to you about that, so I will shut up.
Thank you, Noah, for that incredibly smooth segue. Yes, so I picked Sputnik, our Russian language science fiction offering for the evening. So Sputnik, for all you viewers out there, was a probe they sent into space in the 1950s. The Russians sent into space. That's it. It's to do with space, so they called their alien film Sputnik, of course. I think it's a clear example of this film is definitely called something different in Russian, and we've just had to name it something vaguely relatable to English fans. Anyway, it deals with basically a Russian cosmonaut who comes back from a mission with a little extra something attached to him. And our main character, so he's our secondary main character. Our main character is a young female psychiatrist who is basically given the task of finding out, at first just finding out if this guy is healthy, what's up with him. But very quickly she finds out that the little something he brought back from his mission is a symbiotic organism, an alien, living inside him during the day, but it comes out for a couple of hours at night. It's not if you're looking for a really cerebral, thought-provoking science fiction film, this isn't Arrival. It's just a tense, well-acted, surprisingly good special effect carrying film that delivers, I think, a solid story.
I thought the setup was really good, and I thought I'm going to enjoy this film. I did enjoy the film, and do you know what was nice? It was nice to see a Soviet era portrayal from not Soviet, but a Russian perspective. I did quite like that because I think that's different. I thought the film was good, but I thought there was gaps in the plot that wasn't necessarily fully explained.
Yeah, I think I prefaced this with I think it's a surprisingly good film. It's when I sat down to watch this quite late at night a few months ago, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I think it's like, to coin a Roger Ebert phrase, I think it's 4 times as good as it should be.
I am much similarly to Emma. I like the setup. It hooks you in. Like, it gives you a sense of intrigue, and you're a bit like, what's going to happen? What's going on here? Who can I trust? But then it just sort of, I don't know, in the second half, I just sort of felt it just gets a bit overly dramatic, and it just sort of stumbles upon itself, maybe. But yeah, in the soundtrack, I found a bit overbearing. It just didn't suit some specific moments of the film. It felt a bit trailer music-y and a bit gimmicky.
No, I think a lot of your criticisms are very fair. I think it is an uneven film. I think the first half is more compelling than the second half, and I think it is unfortunate that it does fall back on those genre conventions towards the end. What I do like, though, I think it's original in some respect. I think, unlike Life, which came out a few years ago and has some similarities, not massively similar, but a little bit, I think it's very easy with any film with an alien to fall back on the film Alien, and I liked that this film at least tried. It's not 100% successful. It does try to do something different with an alien, with this symbiotic relationship.
Sputnik reminded me of loads of different films when I was watching it. So you could say, Jimmy brought up Life, and that was the first thing that I went to. Alien, The Thing, The Fly, kind of, even Venom a little bit, and I was just sort of and so what I appreciate about Sputnik is that it doesn't necessarily fall into the traps that I expect it to. It obviously does have some cliches that, you know, rare as head now and again. I'm just sort of like, okay, fine, I'll accept it. But there were things that I expected to happen and they didn't. And because they didn't happen, it actually was towards the film's benefit. It's a Netflix hidden gem, so it's not obviously going to be like the height of quality. It's just going to be something that surprised you for the quality that it was. I do have a pet peeve, is just that the design of the alien I didn't like. I just thought, I've never really been a big fan of the whole like jellyfish, like worm squid thing vibe that they always try to go for. It's really uninspired and kind of just a bit overdone, unfortunately, which kind of took me out of the film a little bit.
Yeah, James, I completely agree with your point. It is an incredibly generic alien design. It's sad. I think it does, damage the film a little bit. But hey, it's we can't all be as original as John Carpenter's The Thing.
When you mentioned Arrival, I feel like that film sort of changed the sort of landscape of science fiction and aliens now, hasn't it? Because as far as I can remember, that's like sort of one of the first films that sort of decided to do these sort of aliens as not as some sort of hostile sort of enemy.
I think you're right. It's like the biggest and most recent example. As we've said, not the most thought-provoking 1 hour, 50-minute sci-fi Soviet era horror film out there. But hey, if you're looking for a reasonably exciting, good solid time, you could do a lot worse.
Thank you, Jimmy. That wraps it up quite nicely. And you're going to now take us through a game this week.
I certainly am. Yes, I have made a very special Netflix quiz just for this week. On that note, so yes, this is it. Shocks ahoy. Jimmy has made something beautiful once again. So, the rules. How's this going to work? A bit like Noah's one. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to vote for an answer. We'll see who's right. They're both. There's 2 rounds, basically. 2 rounds of 5 questions each, I think. It's not a massively long one today. So.
Go click on it. You click on it first and then go. Yeah,
there you go.
I'm on it. So, round 1. Netflix, Amazon Prime. Question 1 is this TV program. Is it Netflix or Amazon Prime? We've all voted, so we all think it's Netflix, do we? Is the answer Netflix?
I assume.
Stranger Things 3.
Indeed, that's Stranger Things Netflix. Yes.
I've seen it.
Things we aren't doing practice round. I thought I'd start you off nice and easy. I've also never watched it, but I hear it's rather good. Netflix or Amazon Prime? Question 2. This thing, which is The Man in the High Castle, is it Netflix or Amazon Prime? Ooh, we're all pretty confident on these ones. We think it's Amazon Prime. Is The Man in the High Castle Amazon Prime? It is indeed Amazon Prime. Even use the Amazon Prime colours there.
Are you keeping tally, Jimmy?
I certainly am now. I had not at all forgotten. Netflix or Amazon Prime? Question 3. Deutschland. A bit of a left wing out of the left field there. We've got 1 for Amazon Prime. We've got 2 for Amazon Prime. We've got 1 for Netflix. But what is the answer? Deutschland 86. It's Amazon Prime.
This is where my lack of Amazon Prime is going to show, unfortunately.
I think it's also all 4.
Could I maybe win?
Maybe Emma might have a chance.
Oh my God, Emma, you're gonna win.
And Noah and Emma are in the joint lead. With James.
Friends, we're on the same wavelength.
Here's what it is.
Let's have a looky at the next. Kingdom, Netflix or Amazon Prime. And there's a bit of a clue. It's a something series. Ooh, we all think it's any Flixy. It is a Netflix original series. So you all get a point for that one. Well done. Cursed. Has anyone heard of this? Netflix or Amazon Prime for Cursed? Ooh. So we've got 2 for Netflix and a little Noah all on his own there for Amazon Prime. But what is the answer? Is Cursed Netflix or Amazon Prime? So of course Netflix. So
Emma's
ahead.
Emma is 1 ahead at the end of the first round with 5 points. James and Noah both just a whisper behind on 4. So now we change to something slightly different. Still thumbs up, thumbs down. But this round is all about, is it a completely original intellectual property, or is it based on pre-existing material? And we'll have thumbs up for original and thumbs down for pre-existing. Exactly the same rules, or 1 point per question per round. We'll jump right in. Lost in Space, also known as Lost in Space. Original or pre-existing? And that was original or pre-existing?
It says it, doesn't it?
It has the word original, Noah, but that does not mean it is a completely original IP. So we have which one was which?
Original
Yes,
up.
it's
and then
original.
none of
No,
it
it's
down.
not original.
Right. So only Noah thinks it's original.
James does.
Oh, and James. Only Emma didn't think it was original, and boy did she get it right.
Oh, no, that threw me off.
No, Lost in Space was originally a TV series in the 1960s or 70s, and there is also a really bad 1998 film with Joey from Friends, Matt LeBlanc, and also Gary Oldman, and Heather Graham, a young Heather Graham as well.
Ah.
Yes, one of the first DVDs I ever had. That's why I know that. Moving on. The croon. I'm trying to roll it. The croon. The crown. Well done, Emma. The crown, ladies and gentlemen. Original IP or pre-existing? We're all pretty confident on this, by the looks of it. We all think it's an original IP. It is indeed an original IP. Completely original, not based on anything.
Kinda.
Well, it's not an original idea because the royal family exists.
Well, it's based on a true story, but it's not.
Yeah, I was just trying to be a little rat, don't worry.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, fair. The Queen's Gambit is this. This is brand new to Netflix, of course, very popular. It's got my future wife Anna Taylor-Joy. Anna Taylor-Joy, yeah. It is. Pre-existing original. What do we think? We think 3 for original, right?
Yes.
It's pre-existing, of course.
Ah.
It's actually based on a novel by a lovely lady whose name I can't remember.
Fair enough.
So we're moving in to our penultimate question, which is Another Life, another Netflix TV series, I believe. What do we think? Do we think this is original or pre-existing? No, we're a bit slow on the decision-making process there, but Emma pretty confident, thinking that it's pre-existing, whereas we've got 2 for original. Let's find out, shall we? Another Life, it's an original IP!
Catching up.
So as we go into the final round, scores are as follows. Emma in the lead with 7. We've got James and Noah joint behind with 6. So it really is all to play for as we go into the final round of Jimmy's Netflix quiz, which is, of course, The Haunting of Hill House. So, final question, original IP or pre-existing material? Noah straight in with an answer there. Okay. She's sticking with her guns. She's going original. That's 2 for original. Just Noah going it alone with pre-existing IP. Ladies and gentlemen, to decide the potential winner of this round of the quiz, is The Haunting of Hill House pre-existing or original? It's pre-existing.
Oh.
It's based on a very old book by an author whose name. Wow! So Noah gets the point, which means we have joint winners today.
We've got a dead heat again.
Emma and Noah, just 1 point ahead of James.
Oh.
I wonder whether we should do a tie break.
Do you have any material?
What can you think of off the top of your head?
Let's go for The Man in the High Castle Is it pre-existing or is it?
Do you want us to do thumbs and stuff?
I do want you to do thumbs and stuff.
A Man in the High Castle.
The man dons le grande castle. This doesn't really work if you both vote for the same. Okay.
We'll just keep going until.
So you both think it's pre-existing.
Yeah.
And you're dead right, of course, based on a novel by Philip K. Dick. What other ones can I think of off the top?
James has got one.
I could do a question.
That would be really nice. Go on, James.
Yeah, right. And if you guys don't know, which is what I'm hoping for, that means we can get varied answers here. So there is an upcoming series coming to one of the two streaming platforms, Netflix and Amazon Prime, based on the comic series by Robert Kirkman, who did The Walking Dead. It's called Invincible. But is it coming to Netflix or Amazon Prime?
Oh, you've thrown a proper curveball there.
Do you want us to do thumbs down for Prime, thumbs up for Netflix?
Yeah, do it as we were before.
What's it called again? The Invincible Man?
Just Invincible.
I'm gonna vote as well, just because I can.
Oh, here we go.
Right, we may as well just end it and vote for differing ones.
So here we go. We've got Noah with Amazon Prime. We've got Emma with Netflix, and Jimmy says Netflix as well.
I just thought I'd chuck my hat in the ring.
So I can confirm that the winner for this week with the tiebreaker is. I'm so sorry, Emma. It's Mr. Noah.
Oh no!
Yeah. It's an Amazon Prime series.
Bloody hell!
Yes, animated
Emma.
I thought it was going to be my first win.
Well and truly robbed at the last hurdle.
Dang.
What a thrilling conclusion to the end of this week of Jimmy's Netflix quiz. Tune in next time.
So that means, rather reluctantly, Noah, we get to come to you for winner's thoughts.
Winner's thoughts. My winner's thoughts are best person one. Sorry, Emma, you know.
Ooh.
All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. We've been 4 struggling filmmakers, and we will continue to struggle. Goodbye.
I can't score.
Oh, what's on one iron?
The Russian offering. Russian offal. Thank you for that segue, Noah. We're now going to talk about Sputnik, the Russian offering. No! Offering isn't a word!